Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. The winning run has halted. We're still unbeaten. It is not a loss, but it is a really, for me, a terrible result really, especially after that derby win. And you can probably see it in my face, in my voice. I am disappointed as a United fan. It is really disappointing having to come on this forum, which has been the winning studio up till now. All the forums in the studio have been wins, and deliver a draw. A draw that, for me personally, based off the first half, we should have won. Second half, we just weren't at the races and we let the game go. But I mean, there's a few controversial decisions that we can speak about, but ultimately Palace did do enough to get a draw in the end. You can't deny that. And I think today was a big reality check for a lot of United fans, including myself, who were maybe getting a little bit carried away. If you really want to be competing at the highest level, you have to be finishing games like that off. And you have to be more ruthless. You really do. You really have to do that. So it is gutting that we have dropped 2 points today. It does feel like that, especially after the derby win. But I've got some great guests in here today and some fresh faces as well to discuss what went wrong, what went right, and how we stop this from happening in the future. Also, Casemiro, if you don't know yet, I'm sure you do unless you're living under a rock, is now out of the Arsenal game as well. So we don't have Casemiro. He has been suspended with a yellow card. So we'll be talking about how we can potentially go about that game without Casemiro, who is probably, well, he has been our best player this season. So we're here to break it all down with Faz, Kev and Usman as well. And starting things off, Faz, I'll come to you because, I mean, we have this little break between the match where we're discussing things and we're talking about what went wrong. We were all absolutely gutted. I mean, free kicks are free kicks. It was a world-class free kick that David De Gea had no chance in the world of stopping. But it was coming for Palace, weren't it, in that second half? Yeah,
I kind of felt during the second half, I was saying, you know, whilst watching the game, that it feels like Palace have a goal in this game. We seemed like we weren't in sync. We didn't control the game like we did in the first half. We didn't pin them back. Their players were clearly going past our midfield with ease, going past our fullbacks at times with ease, and they were finding pockets of space in our half of the pitch, which shouldn't be happening really in the second half. But you know, not all is lost. That's what I will say. I know everybody's disappointed. I know the comment section are gonna come for me, but it doesn't matter. My skin is very thick, and Ten Hag's skin is even thicker. Sunday hasn't gone yet. You know, we can still, anything is possible if you believe in God and if you believe in Ten Hag. So we must believe. We must believe. This man has done miracles this season. You still wouldn't believe that you're neck and neck with C.
I know.
You still wouldn't. So
do you know what it is? It's once you always want more in life, and that is the way it is. It's always going to happen. It's like I would never have dreamed that would be on the same points as City at this point in the season, at the start of the season. But because we had the potential to go past them today, and I know that we're capable of winning this game, it's really disappointing when you drop them 2 points. I mean, my brother texted me after the game because I've been getting a little bit carried away. Everyone here will know that. I own up to that, saying this is why you can't be delusional sometimes. Like, we are just in it for the top 4. There's not a chance on earth that we're going for the title. You need to see that by now. And I think, well, I'm a fan that's going to get excited and going to get positive, like a lot of other people have. It's different sides of the coin and which side you do see it. But, Kev, I mean, I always have a positive hat on. You are the same as well. For me personally, that first half was brilliant. There was triangles, there was one-touch passing, there was pace, we were creating chances, we had complete control. And then the second half was just a completely different game. Do you have any idea why you think that might have been? Complacency?
Could be complacency. I mean, we talk about expectation. You look at the match on Saturday, the Manchester derby, fans, yourself coming out bouncing outside of Old Trafford, and that's the expectation comes with that. We go into Crystal Palace and maybe we're a little disrespectful. A lot of us would have been looking at this and thinking it's Crystal Palace. We go into this game, if we can get the 3 points, it brings us closer to Arsenal. And you know, Eric Ten Hag said before this game, it's all about managing each game. You've got to face each game and take it on. Now, we have fallen at a hurdle. We can try and be positive. Listen, we're still on a great run. We've not lost the game, but on reflection of the game, like you say, bossed the first half. The goal that we scored was absolutely fantastic. Interchange, one-touch passing, great goal to see. And then all of a sudden, second half looked like an absolute different team. I think that one of the main turning points could have actually been Casemiro.
Yeah, it was.
You know, the booking. I read today, I think it's 28 years ago since Eric Cantona jumped in the crowd at Selhurst Park. You know, and you look at that challenge from Casemiro, it was almost shades of that. It was reckless, out of control. Some of us were even talking off air saying it could have possibly been a red card. Now, when you see Erik ten Hag shaking his head on the sidelines, I think even Bruno Fernandes went over, and it was almost like, what have you done? You know, he's the general man. He's the main chief in the midfield area. And looking ahead, all us were the same. You know, we all looked at each other and went, everyone's thinking ahead, you know, to the Arsenal game, and you think, what a huge miss he's going to be. But it's a sucker punch. Listen, the goal is an absolute worldie of a goal. David De Gea has no chance with it. It's the timing of the goal as well.
Well, it's the fact, for me as well, personally, it's the way the game goes. I mean, a lot of people are complaining about the derby, the decision, and yeah, I honestly look at that decision and think, if it was against me, I would have been very annoyed. It was offside, let's be honest about that, but it's a decision, you take it, you move forward. But these decisions do come back around. For me, that was a stonewall penalty on McTominay. People will say, it's not enough to overturn it. He gets him by his legs. He can't carry on running. It is a penalty. You never know which way the game goes from then. It's 2-0. Does Casemiro feel the need to actually make that challenge? It can be a different game. So these decisions do come back around.
He probably gets brought off the pitch at 2-0. It's kind of job done, you know, you can look at that.
These are decisions we'll go into, because for me today there was some clear issues that we've probably been ignoring for a few weeks, because we have been on an amazing winning run and we don't want to take that away. Like, Ten Hag has done wonders with this team. But there is issues that we can talk about, which I thought were clear as day. I mean, first of all, Bruno, 153 games for Man United and 100 goal involvements now. I think for a midfielder, that's absolutely brilliant. But he ruined it for me in the second half, because he bottled a 50-50, and that's why Casemiro had to make that challenge. For me personally, if I was Ten Hag, I'd be like, Bruno, what are you doing? Games like this, if that was against City, would you be bottling that challenge? Probably not. You've got to go into everything with everything, and Bruno usually does that. For me, he was at fault at that challenge, but I mean, his goal was great. The goal contributions that he's provided to this team, I still think go unnoticed. But again, Usman, I'll come to you. For me, a clear issue that I can see is we are very over-reliant on Marcus Rashford to score goals for us. Rashford has been unbelievable for the last... since the World Cup. He's been good this season, but since the World Cup, he's been unbelievable. It was clear to see today it was an off day for him. All players have them. He wasn't quite at the races. He didn't look as sharp as he has been. We need the team to be able to find the back of the net without him. Does it feel like we're kind of in need of the front three to maybe click a little bit more in order to score more goals?
Yeah, I think for me personally, in particular in the first, I thought we were actually fantastic in 2/3 off the pitch. I think it's been a consistent theme throughout the entirety of the season. Defensively, we've been absolutely fantastic, very solid defensively in transition in the middle of the park. Of course, Eriksen's been extremely pivotal alongside Casemiro for that. But as soon as we get to the final third, 90% of the games that we played, I'm sure most United fans would agree, it's extremely frustrating. There's a lot of players not taking ownership, not taking enough risks, a lack of creativity, a lack of imagination to unlock the door. For me personally, Rashford, yeah, as you mentioned, he did have an off day, but that's completely fine. I mean, you need the other players to step up. For me, Anthony, I'm a big fan of Anthony. I believe in his potential. I know he's got something about him, but again, I need to see more from him. I need to see him committing a defender. I need to see him taking more risks and actually being involved in the game. This is when you need your other players to step up. Obviously, it was Weghorst's first game. I don't really expect much from him. Obviously, he's come on to be a secondary striker, but other players need to do their bit. And I think for me, Bruno Fernandes barred the goal. I thought he had a fairly solid game, but again, he's not creating enough chances, as isn't Eriksen. I thought that both were fantastic, of course, linked up beautifully for the goal, but I need to see more from them. They're capable of doing more consistently. If you actually look at the game and break it down realistically, bar the goal, did we have a chance in that first half? For all the fantastic football and possession that we played in the, obviously, defensive third in the middle of the park, we created next to nothing in the final third. We had that Weghorst header that went over the bar, but for me, in these games where it's going to be tight, you've got to create more chances, and of course, you've got to be clinical. But overall, for me, way too reliant on Rashford. I think that's been a theme for a long time now, and other players have got to step up and be counted for.
Well, for me personally, I think I massively agree with you on that as well. Massively agree with you. I thought Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw were brilliant tonight, actually, as fullbacks. But what I want to see is, I feel like we need to see the wingers and the fullbacks having more of a relationship and actually using the byline, using the wings, using the overlap. And I'm not blaming the fullbacks for this. Like, the wingers need to be more involved as well. It is. We can talk about it. I mean, a lot of people going in on Anthony tonight, I think a bit too much. I think it's been bubbling up a little bit. But I think maybe it's time for Erik ten Hag to be a little bit harsh. Garnacho has been brilliant when he's come on, when he's played. He commits defenders. He does get to the byline. He puts crosses in the box. When is it time to kind of look and think, we need to change it up here? And if you're not performing, take you out and bring someone in who does. I mean, we'll get onto that. But Faz, I mean, you're a big fan of Anthony. He's got a lot of stick tonight. And do I think he played well? No. I mean, we were all watching the game together. I wasn't happy with the way he played. I think he is very predictable and he's not getting to the byline the way I think personally I'd like my winger to. And I do think he slows down our attacks in transitions. Do you think there's a problem in the attack? And do you think Anthony's maybe getting a little bit of unnecessary stick put onto him, considering it's everyone that's involved in that as well?
I think it's bubbled up because people have no other winger but to rely on Anthony. I mean, last time I checked, Jadon Sancho is still in detention, so we don't know when he's back. If and when he's back and he's giving something to the team, then you could say, right, it's okay for Anthony to hold bench. Until then, what is the kid going to do? He's 22 years old. It's halfway through a season, just about halfway through a season. You can't expect him and his fullback, who also, Wan-Bissaka last season was atrocious, only now he's starting to play his value that we bought him for. You can't expect him to have an amazing partnership with his fullback, and you can't expect him to be that Premier League winger as well. Don't forget, this manager played with this player last season in his former club, so he clearly trusts him. He clearly sees that there is a style of play, there is patterns of play that he wants in this team. People waffle on about Martial and how much the manager loves Martial. So the manager loves Anthony. So where's the love for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides for sure. I'm surprised I've not had a text through yet from Ricky actually saying it's because Martial didn't play, because I will get one.
Do you know Ricky's best one? I heard him after the Manchester derby was that, you know, I wish he was here this evening so I could have asked him, but he said that at half time, obviously Martial come off, and it changed the game because then City look, you know, at a different team, and I was like, what? You know, are you mad? You know, did it change the game?
What, Martial for the derby?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it massively did actually.
I do.
In the favour of Manchester City, you mean?
I do.
Yeah. And the way they played.
He was doing a job on Rodri, to be fair to him. Obviously, him and Eriksen alongside each other. But just to come back to what Faz has said regarding Anthony, first and foremost, it's a new league. He needs to adjust. I think the point regarding Wan-Bissaka is absolutely spot on. Of course, they've barely played with each other. They're not going to have that natural chemistry, as you were alluding to there, Beth. But for me, the only criticism I have about Anthony, he's very safe in his play. I've seen him at Ajax. I think he's got more than enough in his locker to actually take on a man, commit a man. We've seen in shades what he's capable of. You know, he's dropped players on numerous occasions this season, but for me, he just doesn't do it enough. And that's the frustrating thing about him. For me, at the end of the day, it's going to take him time to obviously settle into the league. But as a Manchester United winger, we expect more. You've still, like you said, Garnacho is a fearless winger at the moment. He's taking on players, he's committing players, he's getting you off your seat. With Anthony, every time he gets to the wing, you know exactly what he's going to do.
He's being labelled a one-trick pony.
Yeah, sadly, don't get me wrong, he's got the capabilities of going around the outside, which he eventually did to our amazement and the defender's amazement, because he was waiting for him to cut back in. And he got the better of him eventually. The defender got a last-ditch tackle on, but he needs to mix his game up for me. Like I said, he's got more than enough about him. It's just a bit frustrating at the moment because we're too reliant on Rashford, and we need other players to chip in, be it goals or performances at least.
Yeah, it needs to be. I just think a few of the forward players in the final third need to contribute in like holding the play, building up attack more, because I see Casemiro putting world-class passes into people, and I see Eriksen first half was the same. Bruno does it as well, but in the second half we'll get on to Eriksen, but fades massively, and you need players to kind of come out of the woodwork and step up, and it just feels like we run out of options sometimes. And I'll read out some super chats because I've got quite a few to actually go through here. RM99 says another ghastly Anthony gain, 100 mil down the drain. I don't think we should write players off, guys. I mean, it's one draw. It's one draw. Like, yes, it's a game that we've dropped 2 points. Yes, it's gutting, but you can't just put it all on Anthony because he's not been amazing for the last few games. He had a bad game, yeah, but you can't.
If we'd have won this game, nobody would have mentioned Anthony or his performance.
It's not even that. It's sad and it's pathetic that you you would say his price tag.
I know.
When it's
That is not his fault. Yeah.
When Woodward and Arnold were doing backpacking and drinking cocktails in Europe,
Touring.
you don't mention that in the super
Touring
chat, but
Europe.
you'll mention his price tag. Please, you lot, your fans, you lot know better.
We
Leave the price
appreciate
tag.
the contribution.
We appreciate the contribution, but come on, be
just,
smarter.
just to add to that, sorry, we don't want to get in a situation where we're scapegoating Anthony as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
he was not culpable for us not winning this game. I'm sorry, he was not the reason. I'm sure we're going to get into it very shortly what obviously the reason was for the second half being so abysmal. Anthony was not the reason we didn't win this game. So
No.
people need to just get off his back.
We just expect more, and when players have poor performances, we talk about it. But we
Easy
can't
target.
put
That's
the
what it
blame
is.
on one player. The blame for winning this game, for me personally, is the whole team in general.
Yeah.
I think they switched off in the second half. The chill spot says Rashford was too selfish. Should have passed the ball more. Shaking my head. He should have. He should have passed more. He was too selfish at times. That has got us out of jail a lot of times this season, though. So it's like, you know, another day one of them shots goes in. But as Ricky would say, your overall play, you have to be better at decision making. And today he wasn't on it. The Moose says praise Wan-Bissaka. We'll be coming on to Wan-Bissaka. We can't get everything in within the first 10 minutes of a show, but Wan-Bissaka will be getting praised. He was one of the highlights tonight for sure. I have another one there. And Grime Kitty said, oh, thank you for this super chat. I love Beth as a host. She provides perfect moderation, moving the conversation along nicely and keeping the ideas flowing and raising fresh topics. 10 out of 10. Grime Kitty, I really appreciate that after the awful game that the awful second half I just had to kind of endure. It's always nice having your guys' chats in. And Zayn Miasi's in the chat. Zayn, please, wait until Sunday. I'm not as confident without Casemiro, granted, but we can still Fazil back me up. We can still get a result on Sunday. And he says actually, Zayn Miasi, never mind Planet Faz, it's Planet Arsenal. Do you know what makes me laugh? You can't be that good at the top of the league if you're preying on United's downfalls and celebrating yellow cards for United. There must be some fear factor in there. Is there any response for you on that, Faz?
Make sure you have your baby wipes ready on Sunday, because even without Casemiro, I have that much faith in my manager and my players that we can still do our job. Just like when Martinelli slid and did the salute, and look what happened to you guys when you played in Old Trafford. So we're coming for you guys on Sunday, and we're coming full-chested. Casemiro or not, we still have a squad.
We also have a chat in saying who should play in midfield against Arsenal. We'll be getting onto that as well. There is a lot to discuss in this game. I mean, it was a 1-1 game, but there is a lot to talk about because there is a few talking points to get into. But Kev, I'll move on to you on this topic. I want to talk about our new signing, Wout Weghorst, and we will move on to Wan-Bissaka, guys. He was great, but we've got to hit the talking point, which is Wout Weghorst, and he got a good little run in today. He started, which I personally didn't expect, and there's a lot to like about him. I don't want to take it away. So, what did you like, Kev?
I think the fact Martial wasn't in the team, we are definitely crying out for a number 9. We've kind of got one now, but he had a couple of days training with Manchester United, so the guy is going to be a tad rusty. He was feeding off scraps. He had a header in the first half that he put over the bar, did all right. And he's kind of link-up player for somebody who's only trained with Manchester United for a short period of time, was something different to probably what we've got in our ranks, which isn't much at the minute. But if you measure it off maybe what we had in Ronaldo, what we have in Martial, as a big man up front, we've not had that for a while. He looked aggressive, not sharp off the mark, but listen, he linked the play up, he held it up, brought others into play, and I think that's exactly what Ten Hag's brought him in for. I think it could be a little bit of a masterstroke bringing him in. I know a few eyebrows have been raised. We're Man United, is this another Ighalo kind of Glazonomics kind of signing? But if Ten Hag has got his hands tied in terms of transfers and what he can bring in, this is a guy that he knows. So it could be a little bit of a masterstroke. We'll have to, only time will tell until the end of the season, of course.
Just to add to what Kev said though, Bruno's goal comes because he drags 2 players with him.
Yeah.
It's that movement.
And even when he drops in deep, you see he's almost dragging his centre-back and a midfielder with him, because he's obviously covering so much space and the strength and his holder play. He's taking players out of position. And this is something when I was saying to you guys whilst watching the game is Ajax had the most crosses last season under Ten Hag. This season, we've barely had crosses. Now Wout has come in, you will probably see Ten Hag trying to get his fullbacks inverted, when they're playing inverted, to put in crosses from more of a deeper position, or getting his fullbacks, if they're overlapping, again, whipping balls in, in the air. Corner kicks, we can't beat the first man in corner kicks. Eric Ramsey or whoever is on that, we need to be beating first man on the corners, because the aerial threat is there. And this guy, he's in his whole career, he's had 51% aerial duels won. So there's clearly a threat there. But he did well. I think he did really well. He gave us a lot to look forward to.
Something different.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I've just got it's not a super chat, but it's a chat that I've just seen pop up, and I actually wanted to read it out because I think we all need to hear this right now. And we're all disappointed, but this is something we all need to hear. The fact we are disappointed with the draw shows you how far Ten Hag has taken this team. A point away from home is a good point any day, and it's going to be tough without Casemiro against Arsenal. But to be at this point in the table right now is a massive achievement, and it's true, it is a massive achievement. Selhurst Park is a really tough place to go, and we would have accepted this tenfold at the start of the season where we are right now. But it's just annoying because this squad can do more. But back onto Val Usman, I want to get your opinion on this. For me personally, there's lots to like Faz said. He dragged defenders out, he occupies the defensive line, he's a presence, link-up play is good, he's got a good touch, he was bringing players into play, holding the ball up, getting in good positions, pressing as well. But, I mean, one of the things I would say, and this is only a joke, I'm not trying to be negative, is a good race on the training ground that I'd like to see is Weghorst versus Maguire. I mean, who can get the slowest time? I reckon I'd beat Weghorst in a race, genuinely. But he offers something different, doesn't he? I mean, I'd even argue in today's game, maybe would have it been better to maybe bring him off the bench in the second half, and we're struggling a little bit. But what did you think of his performance? Yeah,
I wasn't going to mention the pace. Obviously, we're trying to stay positive with that. Listen, at the end of the day, any attacking team needs many different facets to their attack. And for me, he gives a completely different dimension to the way Manchester United want to play. As Faz and Kev correctly alluded to, the fact that with Ajax in particular, Sebastian Haller was absolutely a revelation for Ajax. And I think that's extremely integral in the way Erik ten Hag wants to set up his team. And at the moment, with Martial not consistently fit, what other options does he actually have? You obviously have the option of Marcus Rashford playing down the middle. For me, that's not my preferred choice. And I like the fact that with Weghorst, you have got the option of going long and obviously knocking it down and playing a different way. And I thought it was actually really impressive the manner in which we mixed it up. It wasn't, we're going to keep pumping balls into the box. We were actually playing great football. There was that build-up on the left wing in particular when he flicked it around the corner to Bruno Fernandes, who obviously ran onto it and then tried to outside the boot it to Anthony when the keeper eventually spilled the ball. But just little touches like that, we haven't seen that enough at Manchester United. A back to goal player. I know Martial does have that in his locker as well, but just the aerial threat is something we haven't really possessed for a long time now, since Cavani, realistically speaking. So for me, it can only be a positive, especially in the last 20 minutes when you're chasing the game or you're trying to get a goal late on. It gives you another option, and if you're trying to chase games, you need every single opportunity to score a goal that you can get.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It definitely gives us something. I would argue, I don't want to be too negative as well, because I think it's a good stopgap signing towards the end of the season. We needed it desperately. We know how poor we've been in being able to keep at least one striker fit. He needs to be in this team. But I think today, showing the dynamic he could bring, I think how important it shows that we need to go and get that elite level striker in the summer massively. I think it would add a different string to this team's bow, and I think it's so crucial that we do that. But we've got Grand Pops TV, member for 7 months from the United Stand Members Club. Thank you very much for the chat. And he said, at the start of the season, we were hoping for top 6. We are still building, allow players and the manager to continue improving. We are 100% going to do that. What Erik ten Hag has done is unbelievable, and no one will argue otherwise. And do I question a few things that happened today? Absolutely. Do I still have faith in Erik ten Hag to go and get a win at the Emirates without Casemiro? Yes. And that shows how good Erik ten Hag has been this season. The fact I still actually believe that could happen. So, yeah, we've got to keep faith in the team and the manager. This is just a setback, and it can teach the team a few lessons, and Erik ten Hag will take note from it, and you move forward from it. You've got to have these sort of games in a team that is rebuilding to be able to learn from these things and get back. I mean, this season would be brilliant to be competing, but we take all the lessons, we get Champions League football, we invest, we move on to next season, we go even more with all these lessons under our belt. So it's a team in transition. We're definitely not going to be too harsh. But Faz, one thing I was really impressed with tonight, which again shows how good of a coach Erik ten Hag is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And I think, what nickname did you have for him?
Well, the name I've given him is Aaron Ronaldinho, because you're going to start seeing some Brazilian music playing with some compilations of Wan-Bissaka on YouTube this season, because I didn't even know he had that in his locker, in all honesty. I've never seen him play like that. And he was just dropping shoulders out of nowhere to just no one. He's just showing off. You know what? And his tackling and his spatial awareness. Some of the critical things about Wan-Bissaka is his passing, right? We were like, can he cross? He can't cross. But hopefully he can add those things as the season goes on. But the most important thing is when the season started, Dalot was playing every single game, 90 minutes, and for club and country. And the one thing we had in mind is, oh my God, if this kid gets injured, if this guy gets injured, we are in deep trouble. So we were in the market for a right back. We were in talks with Dumfries and etc. Timber. Luckily for us, though, Wan-Bissaka is coming and he must stay. This is a player that is playing like the way he is. He must stay. This is not him adding value so that he can get a move. I want players like this who have improved leaps and bounds and have added so much to the team. This is almost like having a new signing on its own, having Wan-Bissaka play like this. And imagine if Wan-Bissaka can now add more in terms of attacking that Dalot does have. And now Dalot can get a well-needed rest as well. Let's not forget, as well, give us competition in that position, right? That's another thing. I would say in certain aspects of the game today, critical challenges. At certain times, he was 1v1 in certain scenarios. Again, in the byline, having his full back, controlling him, no problem, not letting him get past. I do think, though, the partnership that we talked about, him and Anthony, they need to polish it up a bit more in terms of him overlapping, in terms of him being able to cross a ball in, because now Wout has come in. I do want to see fullbacks being able to put good, decent crosses in, but I think that will come with time. Overall, though, I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah, so am I. I have to admit, I've completely U-turned on Wan-Bissaka, and I'll admit when I'm wrong. When he first came into the club, I thought he was brilliant. I loved him, loved the signing, because I thought he was a very good right back. He then massively went downhill, and I genuinely thought there was no way back for him. I thought that was it. Wan-Bissaka's going to need to go, and whatever Ten Hag has been doing, and himself as well, you can't just leave it all on Ten Hag. He put his head down, he worked hard, he came back, no noise, and he's been class. And every game I just think, I don't want you to leave. I don't want him to leave now. I want him to stay. He offers something completely different. He is playing Erik Ten Hag's style now. He's doing the inverted runs. He can do the overlap runs, which I think he needs to do a little bit more. But I mean, even his dribbling on the ball, he's one-touch passes. Like, he used to get targeted because whenever anyone came close to him, he'd just end up dribbling into someone and losing the ball.
You have triggers. If the player has one touch and then the second touch, the striker or the winger is supposed to press you. But you've seen him now around 3 or 4 players. He's like calm. He doesn't panic. He doesn't rush the pass. He takes a touch or two and then looks up and then is aware of where his colleagues are.
And the last-ditch challenge today.
That's the thing, Kev. Wow. I mean, I'll bring you in on that, actually. Only a certain player can do that today. And when it was Wan-Bissaka, I was confident he was going to get there. Anyone else, I thought penalty or he's going to score. Wan-Bissaka, I mean, Zaha even said it in his post-match interview, didn't he? He said he knew when he saw behind it was Wan-Bissaka that he'd probably get the ball. I mean, he did a brilliant job on Grealish, which everyone can laugh about Grealish being a flop, but he's very good on the ball, and he's against his defenders seems to get the upper half and get free kicks. Wan-Bissaka, after a few minutes, did a brilliant job on him. He's done jobs on Mbappe in the past, and now he's actually seems like he's got a first touch and can actually get past players as well. It's crazy to see. I still rate Dalot highly, but he saved us from losing all 3 points there, didn't he, Kev?
He did. That was a massive challenge, that. And again, when you watch it, you think, you look in that split second, and when you know it's Wan-Bissaka, it's never in doubt. His timing is absolutely impeccable with any challenges like that. And he has been doing that for a couple of years. But touching on Wan-Bissaka, I think it's testament to the man himself and the work that he is putting in to challenge Dalot to get back into this team. But the coaching at Manchester United as well. I keep saying this, show after show, and it is great to be saying it because for years, under the likes of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, even Rangnick to an extent, these players, we haven't seen improvement. You listen to Spurs fans at the minute, there was certain people on the United stand that wanted Conte at Manchester United, and at the time I was like, no thank you, give me the Hag any day of the week. Forget Conte, he will come. He'll be a big ball of either at Manchester United, create this kind of hornet's nest, which is what's happening at Spurs now. But Spurs fans will tell you that none of their players have improved under Conte. Now, positivity-wise at Manchester United, players are improving. And some of the players, like you've just rightly said, with Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw, there is loads that are stepping up. Rashford,
McTominay, the baller.
Fred.
This is you have to
Fred as well.
You have to take that. At one point, McTominay was showing for the ball. He was making good 5-yard
for like
runs.
half a game.
So
that's
having a game
at the
plan.
start of the season. At the start of the season,
We'll see on Sunday anyway.
You know,
You better, listen.
I hope Scott McTominay, if you're watching this, please, I beg you, please.
He's
don't
not
embarrass
watching
me.
this channel.
If there's one person you can trust, it is that bald-headed genius to go to the Emirates on Sunday and have a game plan. Listen, we are resigned to the fact we knew as well as everybody else watching that match when Casemiro picked up that yellow and we all literally, it was like we just lost the game at that point. We were winning 1-0.
It's like say you'd been like shot and you know you're going down anyway. It's just like
it was like getting some really bad news. Like you just took a phone call and we were all like, because we all like looked at each other and we're like, it's happened. He's got the yellow card, and then it kind of registers. You sit there for a minute and you're like, okay,
and you think if we manage to win this game, like at least we win, and then they score on top of it. It was just like that, and a free kick as well,
Double
a
whammy,
worldy free kick. After them David De Gea says, we'll get on to David De Gea as well. You need to talk about him, absolutely. But we've got a few chats to get through. Stephen Mancini says thoughts on playing Martin as CDM. We're going to talk about the midfield discussion for Arsenal in a second.
Wow.
We've got another one here. A super chat from Arsenal 1. Manchester United 3. I love that name. You've got bonus points in my head for having that name. And he said, how about getting... Oh, no, now you've lost him. How about getting Lingard back for the Arsenal game?
That's not a bad shout, to be fair.
I was like, ooh, and then I looked at your chat and I was like, oof. That won't be happening. That won't be happening. I don't really know how to answer that question, but it just won't be happening. But yeah, I mean, we'll get on to that. Another chat actually coming through from Stephen Ross J. Playing Martin as a CDM, playing McTominay or Fred in that position is a guaranteed loss. I mean... First of all, Casemiro has been absolutely unbelievable for Manchester United. I said today, for me, for the impact he's had on a team, is signing of the season. City are brilliant with or without Haaland. Some would argue they're even doing better without. Haaland individually is brilliant. But Casemiro has transformed Manchester United's midfield. But we beat Arsenal at home, and at home is very different to away as well. And it was different points of the season. Without Casemiro, we're capable of doing it again. It's how we go about it and how is the best plan to get a result against Arsenal without Casemiro. It's a shame he's not playing, because I've seen many people saying Partey's better than him, which is just completely delusional in my opinion. Partey's a good player, but Casemiro's top drawer, and we won't be able to see that kind of face-off on the pitch, which is gutting as well, because it would have been a great game. But, I mean, another super chat here from David Boyle. Ten Hag has done wonders this first season. We would have lost that game last year. Can't wait till we get the squad together. Martinez CDM for Sunday and Shaw centre-back. A lot of people are suggesting Martinez for CDM. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd be slightly worried about doing it against Arsenal, trialling it out. We'll come to you, Usman, because you're shaking your head on this. Martinez CDM, yes or no? But also... Fred didn't get a yellow. How important is he going to be? Because he's important in these big games for us.
Listen, first things first, regarding Martin and CDM, absolutely not. I mean, if you actually go back into the archives, Ten Hag himself has said Martinez can't play CDM. Ten Hag's come out and said that when he was at Ajax. He tried him out there on numerous occasions and it didn't work. For me personally, I mean, to try someone out in CDM in a game like this, you've got to bear in mind who we're playing against. With all due respect to Arsenal, obviously they've been very good this season, but one of their greatest strengths is their ability to transition the ball from back to front in a matter of seconds. And a player like Martinez obviously has played in that position. He's not as familiar in that position as some of the options we've got. Granted, some of those players aren't particularly great, in my personal opinion. You mentioned Fred, there's actually been fantastic in the last 4 or 5 games in particular off the bench. We're going to have to rely on the very trusted McFred. I mean, I wouldn't start Eriksen. I do think, I'm sure we'll get onto it shortly, but I do think Eriksen, his legs, it's a liability in these kind of games, of course. You know, he's very good in the first half, but the second half he definitely falls off. I think it's going to have to be McFred. I don't want it to be McTominay and Fred, but with the options we've got available, I think Martinez for me would be a mistake. You know what? Just throw Luke Shaw in there. He seems to be good at every single position at this point. No, but honestly, it's going to have to be McTominay, sadly. I know people want Martinez in there, understandably, because no one's a fan of McTominay, but he's done it before. I mean, he turns up in these big games, or we get slapped. There's no in between, really. It's we either lose 6-0 or we win. So I'm not 100% sure, but it is what it is. We haven't got Casemiro, sadly.
I mean, we've had Shawberto, we've had Shardini. Could we have Luki Miro? That could that could maybe be one of them. But no, I agree with you on that. I personally wouldn't put Martinez CDM in this game. He's a centre back. McTominay is for me a squad player, and he's definitely not a first teamer in my opinion. He's been poor for the last few weeks after the World Cup actually restarted. He's been poor, but I don't forget about the glimpse we saw under Ten Hag that you were talking about. He can do a job. He's going to have to be on his best form to be able to do anything against Arsenal. I have to admit that. But Faz, what would your midfield be? Because I do actually think, Eriksen, I was saying before he's a little bit underrated. I mean, another assist for him. I think that's 7 now, or maybe 8. Someone in the chat will be able to tell me it's 7 or 8. Most assists. But in the second half, he just completely... He just... goes off the face of the earth. But what would your midfield be?
I mean, at the start of the season, Eriksen, again, another player came in for a free, played every game, 90 minutes. We didn't have a good start to the season, but eventually he started showing his class. Who's going to make those pinpoint accurate passes from deep?
That's the thing.
Let's be honest. The thing is, he need. This is where I like to call it, you go clanging and banging. This is where you need to show your class. These are the games now. Ten Hag needs to say, right, give me 50 to 60 minutes and then you're off, because we know you fade, and then another player can come in. Eriksen could give us that pivotal pass that could get us 1 goal, and that could just change the game for us. And if we now rely on Mick Fred, who run around like dumb and dumber, let's be honest, in the midfield, it's not going to get anywhere. They both can't make a pass. They both can't carry the ball. They both don't want to take responsibility. They both just want to beef and fight players on the pitch. So we can't have both of them together on the pitch at all.
Can I just throw something in there, Faz? So I personally think what he's going to do is he's going to play McFred and Eriksen and Bruno right wing.
Yes.
I think that's what he's going to do. I think that makes sense to me from his perspective. Obviously, you've got the 2 creative players on there. Then hopefully, I say hopefully very loosely,
Bruno
them
on the
to
right,
actually turn up.
You're not Bruno on the right, okay, but you're not going to get, he's more creative in the middle, let's be honest. And again, this also, Bruno on the right might work because, like Ricky says, right-footed, right winger, or whatever, he can put those right-footed crosses in, but is Wout Weghorst going to start? That's another thing as well. If Wout starts, then...
No,
then
I'm sorry.
It's got to be Rashford, Garnacho, Bruno.
I'm sorry, it's not. Garnacho has to... If Martial isn't fit, which I assume he's not, it has to be Rashford and it has to be Garnacho, because we are going to be playing on the break.
Yeah,
Wout would be... He'd be useless in this game.
But if you're going to be playing on the break, you need Anthony. He is blisteringly fast.
We don't.
But he's blisteringly fast.
We don't.
You saw today as well.
I know he's fast, but the majority of times, I don't want to go in on Anthony, but the majority of times I've seen Anthony get the ball and run, he either cuts back and loses the ball, or it's a pass that doesn't go to anybody. The one time he did it today and he got a ball and he got a corner, and I was sat there clapping because I was happy about it.
But you have no other option. Bruno's not going to run with the ball. And
if I had to pick between playing Garnacho or Anthony, I'd be playing Garnacho.
So you play Garnacho on the right?
No, Garnacho left, Rashford down the middle,
Garnacho
Bruno
left.
on the right.
So that's what I'm saying. You can't expect Bruno to beat a fullback. If it's a foot race, Bruno's not beating a fullback.
He won't be expected to do that though. He's going to have to play in a disciplined approach. Wayne Rooney played out on the right for Manchester United. In certain games, Sir Alex Ferguson used him because he trusted him. He knew he could do a job. Bruno is capable of doing that, but I agree with you. He's not going to run down to the byline and cross a ball over. But he'll be disciplined in that role. Everything is going to basically have to shift over at the other side of the pitch, really.
In a counter-attacking phase, when Arsenal are pinning all their fullbacks higher up on the pitch and they're trying to control the ball in our own half, and we have a situation where we could possibly counter, and in counter you need pace. Bruno ain't going to have to.
But I also think Bruno has the ability to get the ball and pick out a perfect pass over to Rashford. which Anthony can't do. He'll spend too long cutting back on
We're
his left
trying to
foot.
get
and
into the
everyone's
mind
back.
of the Hagger, you see.
Yeah,
This is
that's
what the
about
Hagger
to
be thinking.
Yeah, that is
No,
so
Like by
true.
the time
That is a fair comment.
Anthony's got the time to get back on his left foot and put the pass through, everyone's ran back. Bruno can literally get the ball, whip it across, and that's for me personally what we need. But we've got some super chats in, and everyone get your chats in as well. People will have disagreements on this. Who should play midfield? Who should play along the front three? It's definitely not set in stone for this game. And we've got Hamid saying that wall was like 20 yards, second time now this year. Don't even get me started on that free kick. It was a brilliant free kick, do not get me wrong, but it should never have been a free kick. There was no contact. And we've got one from Barima and Sar saying, didn't we win against Liverpool without Cassie? We did. We also beat Arsenal without Casemiro too. This was a bit earlier on in the season. Things have changed a little bit now. MUFC Realist TV says, a point is a point, and that matters at the end. You beat the top 6 and scrap points on lesser teams wins you the league. I don't agree with that at all. You've got to beat the lower teams, in my opinion, to have a chance. I think that's where your downfall can be sometimes, and that's what our downfall has been in the past. And Red Fly OK says, Beth still downplaying Arsenal. They're the best team in the league. I think Arsenal have been great. I still think City are a better team than them when we beat City. And do Arsenal have a brilliant quality? I think Saka has been one of the best players in the league this year. I think Odegaard as well is up there. Martinelli's a great flair winger, but we've got good players too. We've got to trust in our manager, and he's done it before, he can do it again. General Dan says, big up Planet Faz. So thank you for that one. And Ed Woodward says, Luke Miro for me. And Anthony Martial FC has blood on their hands. I mean, everyone has different opinions on that.
Factual information.
It could be all night.
We need to get a Ricky and Faz debate on Martial going
Factual
soon. And LJ says, gutted from the result, and I can see fatigue already taking a toll, but love seeing new face in the studio. Thank you for easing the pain. We thank you for getting your chats in. I mean, we've called it the therapy stand before. We've not had to call it that in a while, but when you have a draw that feels like a loss, we can start calling it the therapy stand again. But I mean, another positive for me, Kev, I mean, De Gea, we were saying his passing in the derby wasn't quite right, but I mean, what De Gea does do, he saves. Dave saves.
Dave saves.
Dave saves.
He sure
And
does.
I mean, we were doing the little Roy Keane impressions. That's his job. But that fingertip save onto the bar was absolutely unbelievable. He made a couple of other saves as well that were really important. I mean, if it wasn't for Wan-Bissaka, he'd be up there for man of the match for me. How important is he? And does also that show that we are conceding a few chances, that he is maybe a little bit of a get out of jail free card sometimes as well?
He's just doing his job. To fit that one in. De Gea's been... Listen, some people have been critical of De Gea for a couple of years. Again, Faz, like you say, we talk about the fee that Manchester United paid for the likes of Anthony, Harry Maguire, and they always throw it against that kind of individual. That is not their fault. The same way that David De Gea and the contract that he was given at Manchester United, that is the dealings of the board and whoever is in control of that. For me, David De Gea is worth every single penny. I'm not asked. It's not my money. I'm not paying him out of my own pocket. You know, I go along to Old Trafford and watch him, and I still think he's well up there. He's not past his sell-by date. One thing we've been critical on the United stand of is probably his distribution and using his feet. We did say that it might be a little bit of an issue maybe when Eric Ten Hag come in, knowing the kind of keepers that he likes, the ones that can use the feet, play out from the back. I think De Gea he's come on leaps and bounds in that department. I think he showed that, yeah, you know, even at the age that he is, which is relatively low for a goalkeeper, when you think of what goalkeepers can go to, but he's mixing it up, he's going long, he's going short, and shot-stopping wise, there is nobody better in the business. Today, what was a couple of sort of snapshot saves, and like you say, Dave saves, and basically everywhere you go, you always take De Gea with you. You do, because he's been brilliant for Manchester United.
Yeah, his saves today were great. I mean, that fingertip one onto the bar was unbelievable. But, I mean, Usman, I thought defence in general was solid. Martinez, for me, looked back to his best. He took that elbow to the face, which does affect you throughout the game. His passing was great. His partnership with Varane, I mean, Varane's just a Rolls Royce. You kind of forget how good they are. But defensively, we were talking about it, we actually look like a solid team now. I mean, that free kick, it only goes in against United. Like, it was absurd. But defensively, we shut Crystal Palace out at home for the majority of the game, really.
Yeah, I mean, defensively we've been outstanding since Casemiro really has broken into the team. I think with Varane and Martinez as a partnership, arguably the two best centre-backs, both obviously World Cup winners, not many teams can say that. With Casemiro in front of them three as a triangle have been revelatory for Manchester United. In terms of De Gea as well, obviously he's had a big part to play for that as well. But I'm a bit frustrated for the defence. I feel that they didn't deserve to not win the game because they did their job. I mean, in the final third, that has been our constant issue for as long as best part of 3-4 months now, and I think the defence has been winning us the games. I mean, defence wins your titles. Obviously, not saying that we're going to win the title, but the defence is the most important thing. You build from the back, you build those foundations, and Manchester United have done that. We've got the base now to go forward, and hopefully it will eventually click in the final third. But regarding the defence, absolutely no qualms or worries regarding them. To be honest, I didn't actually think we would concede. It had to take something brilliant to get past De Gea. I'm sure Roy Keane, wherever he's sat, he probably thinks De Gea should have saved it, which is fair enough. But yeah, honestly, defensively, we've been fantastic, and we're going from strength to strength, really.
Yeah, that's one thing that Erik ten Hag has massively got right this season is the defence. It's unrecognisable really from last season, and it's brilliant to see Martinez and Varane back together as a partnership. I mean, Jardini's been class, but I like him at left back because he offers stuff going forward for us. But I mean, I was just thinking before, we have had a lot of home games recently, and in that winning run, there has been, I think the majority of them were home games. I don't know quite how many, but I've been at Old Trafford a lot.
Yeah.
I was thinking like Southampton, it was 1-0 away, Leicester 1-0 away. You can't always hold on to 1-0, which I think is something that needs to be addressing because these things happen sometimes, and you always need that second goal to make things more comfortable. And I mean, that's something that maybe Erik ten Hag needs to take a look at. I mean, Crystal Palace, they have them qualities, they have them technical plays where it can punish you, and that did end up happening today. But for me, it wasn't obviously never the defence's fault, and we need to be putting games to bed earlier and being a little bit more ruthless away from home. And Stephen Ross J says, I hope De Gea's performance this season can end the dumb talk about needing to sell him. I mean, his shot stopping is great, and that's all I'll say on that. His shot stopping is great. But, I mean, we'll get man of the matches before we move on to the Arsenal game, because I do think there's a few things that we actually can discuss around the Arsenal game while we've got the panel here. So we'll go down the panel as I usually do. Faz, man of the match for you?
Wan-Bissaka.
Wan-Bissaka?
Ronaldinho, I apologise.
Ronaldinho. Kev, for you?
I'll go a bit different. You know, I thought he faded towards the end, but I'll give it Bruno. I thought he was all action. I thought at 1-0, even obviously he was a captain today, and you know the way that he kind of pulled Anthony for that pass that went through. There was a bit of a squabble between them. You know, shortly after that, they're celebrating a fantastic goal together, and it's obviously just a shame that we've drawn the game, but all action display from
I couldn't quite work out what Anthony was saying to Bruno.
Yeah, we can't repeat that.
I wonder if anyone can do the lip reading. There'll be a few kids at home saying, Mom, Dad, what was Anthony saying to Bruno then? But yeah, do you know what? That kind of conflict as well, it's only natural in a team that wants to win games.
It's a winning mentality.
I have
it's
absolutely nothing against it. Bruno, always talking, always directing. I do have a bone to pick with him about bottling that 50-50, which led to the Casemiro yellow card. It really got under my skin, but I mean, his goal contributions, the way he leads the team, a lot of people won't agree with you on that because I think he gets unnecessary hate at times, but I think he's so important to this team, like you just said, Kev. I mean, Usman, for you?
I mean, I was torn between two players. I mean, the person I've given it to might just be a bit of a cop-out now, but I'm going to stick to Casemiro.
Yeah.
Fuming with a yellow card and the fact that he missed an open net from 2 yards.
Oh, God, no.
Right at the end. But honestly, he was ridiculously good. I mean, his awareness, his reading of the game. I mean, a lot of the times he's not having to cover that much ground because he's always in the right place, and that comes down to his experience. I mean, that's something that everyone praises Busquets for, and Casemiro just senses danger constantly, and he was just starting attacks, breaking attacks, and for me personally, he was the best player on the pitch.
I can't believe you just reminded me of that miss. I was getting through the therapy for him here, and I'm resigned to the fact we've drawn 1-1. My head's processing it, and then all of a sudden I'm getting flashbacks of that ball going across the goal.
I was trying to avoid it throughout the whole forum. We got to man of the match. Aaron spoke about it, and you had to bring it back up.
I know, because the thing is, I had to mention it because I know someone's going to be like, well, you missed an open net. But look, at the end of the day, He was just absolutely sensational.
He was honestly crying out for a Casemiro last-minute winner, and him just like like that in the crowd.
I would have knee slid. I'm not gonna lie. I think Faz was ready. He was ready to join me. I could see in his eyes.
Honestly,
we were ready to do that Thierry Henry knee slide.
When I watched that replay, it's like we've
Just
already talked about
Yeah.
we've already talked about the two shots. That was like another stab to the heart watching that
yeah.
replay. I mean, the goal, I mean, the yellow card, and then that replay was just.
And what did he try doing? Kneeing it?
He tried kneeing it.
He could have
Casemiro on
had
any other
diving header,
day,
he
that
could-
goes
To
back
be honest,
in the net.
just throw your
he
body
didn't
at
even
it.
try to knee it because the ball came fizzing in so quick. It just brushed off his thigh
Yeah.
almost, didn't
Yeah.
it? So he couldn't even do much, in all honesty.
But honestly, I
Devastating.
have to agree with in the fact brilliant anticipation. His anticipation is one of the best I've seen in players. He just reads the game so perfectly well. His passing's class, sometimes too good, I think, for players. Like, he's that good. And all of our attacks do start with him. Sometimes they break down because of, we talked about we need to be better in the final third, but he's so good at spreading the play and it's kind of just completely dominating in that midfield. So they're all fair shouts. Personally, for me, I would go with Wan-Bissaka. I thought just edged it, but all of them shouts are up there, and David Gea has got to be in there as well for me as well. He had a great game today. And Maurice Williamson said welcome. Sorry, they didn't say welcome to the United Stand Members Club. I'm saying welcome to the United Stand Members Club. And Abdi Design, the result shows we are not title contenders. Way to be positive, Abdi. No, we're not. We're not at this point, but I mean, we go to Arsenal and we give everything we can. You never know what's going to happen the rest of the season. Getting top four has to be main priority. Omo No says, hold that, Faz. United must fail. You looking good on United stand, but dropped a point doesn't look good on you. I mean, if anyone thinks we might be still in a title race, Faz, what are you thinking?
Well, I don't understand why people think Arsenal, like, congratulations for being Premier League winners of November, December, probably January, and so on. But you still are playing City 3 times this season. You still have Newcastle to play. You still have Chelsea to play. And guess what? Chelsea took your main and your side. They took all. They took João Felix and Mudryk. I don't know who you're kidding. You don't have no pull. So go and get your priorities right, Arsenal. Go and find a player, because Gabriel Jesus is injured. When he comes back, he needs match fitness as well. Eddie Nketiah and his phone, it might not always ring. So I don't know why these guys are getting so hyped. We might actually go and still do a job. I'm still very much confident in my players. And I know Arsenal will drop points. They will have games that they draw. They will have games that they will lose. So it's not all lost. I mean, it's like everybody's just throwing the hat in. Oh yeah, Arsenal's won it. No, Arsenal cannot win the league in front of my eyes whilst I'm still alive on this earth. It's not happening. No, it is not happening.
Oh, this is going to get clipped. So
Let them clip it. Because I am a football fan. I'm not a robot. I'm not programmed. I'm a football fan of Manchester United. My team comes first. Arsenal are not winning the league until I'm alive. I don't care. It's not happening. I can't live in a world where Arsenal wins the league. Not happening.
I mean, we hope not. I mean, I'm just hoping we humble Arsenal on Sunday. I mean, it's not the only reason. I really want to win that game because I can't stand a lot of the fans, I have to say. But the main fan I cannot stand is Piers Morgan. I don't want to get started on him, but he's already been getting cocky on social media. I can't watch it happen. And people are going to be annoyed when I drop my United Arsenal combined 11, by the way. People aren't going to be happy with that. But they aren't as good as I think a lot of the fans are making out. They've had a very good season. Arteta has done a brilliant job with them, and good job they stuck with him because they're playing better football now and they have some very, very good players. But I still don't think that the finished article, so they're definitely beatable on Sunday. And moving on to Arsenal, which is what we're going to be talking about now for the last few minutes of the show before we wrap things up. I mean, I want to get everyone's starting 11s actually for the Arsenal game.
God.
So I think there's some we can agree on, so I'll go through. We're all taking De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Varane. Are we having Martinez at centre-back next to him?
Yeah.
And Luke Shaw left-back?
Yeah.
Midfield, personally for me, God, it's so tough. I would go with...
Getting backed into a corner here, aren't you, with this
start with the
Casemiro thing now, big time.
I know,
yeah,
You're gonna have
Fred starts, and I would also start McTominay, Eriksen, and I say I don't want Bruno on the right, but if he can emulate his Manchester City performance, I think it's needed. Faz, do you not agree with that?
I know Faz doesn't agree, but
I still have Anthony and his pace. I know
You
the
dropping
concerns,
Eriksen?
but Yeah, no, I wouldn't play McFred together. I'll play Fred, Ericsson, and Bruno in the middle with Anthony on the right, because I still think you take Ericsson off in the second half to bring another player on would be a much better option than to just risk that pace, because I know he doesn't, cross a ball in, but boy, that left foot, if he can get a shot on target with that left foot, you're going to see me topless just going like this. Crazy. I'm telling you.
I just think personally, I mean, I hope it happens. I hope it happens.
Thought.
But, I mean, Osman, I'll come to you. Are Fred and Ericsson physical enough to hold that Arsenal midfield? I don't think so.
I mean, after Faz's speech about Arsenal not winning it in his lifetime, I want to know if you can play DM, Faz. Listen, Faz got me pumped up for that game. Are they physical enough? No. To be fair to Fred, though, he gets himself about. He's. I can imagine Fred must be extremely annoying to play against because he's always there. Especially someone like Odegaard, who's extremely technical. Fred potentially could, shadow him similar to how Herrera did to Hazard. McTominay, for me, that guy hasn't got 2 brain cells. I'm sorry, I know he had a great start to the season. I'm a bit disappointed in McTominay because this was his opportunity to show Newcastle why they need to sign him. And he dropped an absolute stinker. I mean, they're not going to want him off the back of that. I mean, we were going to fleece him the way they were trying to fleece us for Longstaff, 50 million down the drain. McTominay does not score again. Listen, McTominay, what can you do with that guy? Honestly, he's so hot and cold. He can literally drop a 10 out of 10. Like I said earlier, we're either going to lose 6-0 or McTominay's going to be man of the match. There's literally no in between with this guy. He might end up scoring. He's a liability. I mean, I see why Faz has not selected him, I must admit. However, for me personally, I just don't want to see Ericsson and Fred together. That really worries me. Ericsson has shown he's a great first half player, and it would make sense if he took him off after 60 minutes. But if the game's in the balance, do you really want to bring Scott McTominay on? 1-1, just say it's 1-1. Do you want to bring Scott McTominay off the bench? I mean, he's not. I'd rather him just start and he's in the game. He's in within the tempo of the game. I just feel like off the bench, he can't adjust to the tempo of the game. You saw it against Charlton. The guy couldn't deal with Charlton. He was hiding against. I know I'm just going to get stressed now, but he was hiding against Charlton. He didn't want the ball, and if you can't do it against Charlton, you're not going to do it at Emirates. I know I'll actually forget McTominay. Scrap that. I've talked myself out of it. Forget it.
Osman's been on some rant
forget it. Forget it. I've given up on McTominay. Actually, my bad. Newcastle, you can have him for free. I'm going to stick with what Fazza said. Actually, you know what, Fred Ericsson. I can't deal with McTominay, to be honest. He's going to cost us the game.
We'll see what the manager decides. The one thing for me is if we do start the way I was saying, where I think they will all play, we wouldn't have a midfielder on the bench, which would be a bit worrying. But I mean, this is what I mean, and there actually is. I'm just plugging my own video here, but I'll be doing a video on the United stand coming up about why we need to go for a box-to-box midfielder in the transfer window. Why we need to get a Casemiro back up and someone that can also take that role, because we are so thin without him, and that video will be coming up soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. K-Flow says, why is everyone down? I reckon we get green light, VAR pen at the Emirates. That'll do for me. 1-0 United. I want to hear all those lot moan all week. I'd absolutely love to win it on a controversial decision.
I hope it's not a pen as well.
And I'll be on top of the mountain with my crown saying, I told you.
It would be like,
it'd
be like Derby from this to this and then just right back up there. I can't face the world if Arsenal beat us.
I mean, if you do beat them, we're 4 points off first. So it's not all doom and gloom. Their game in hand against Man City. Obviously, today's result is disappointing. I'm sure that was a general consensus from us, anyways.
Drop the ball tonight.
And Man City are capable of putting a run together. All these Arsenal fans that are getting giddy, right?
100%.
We have just stoked the flames. We have annoyed, the Lion or whatever, the champions. They will come back. They are capable of going the rest of the season
I still
unbeaten.
think City will win the league. I still think that is going to happen, but we'll
Haaland will surely start scoring again, so I'll give him something else to think about.
No, but we got Weghorst on it, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last 2 positions I
Loving
wanted
that positivity.
Yeah, we like the positivity on here. Maybe a bit too much, but no. The last 2 that I wanted to speak about was the 2 forward positions, which would be, I think we're talking about 4. I mean, we're just going to have to agree to disagree on the Anthony thing, but whatever Eric Ten Hag does, I have faith in. But do we all agree that Garnacho has to start this game?
I do personally. I know Faz definitely doesn't, but for me, I think that would be an absolute travesty. I mean, we're going to have to play on the counter attack. Garnacho's got blistering pace. You saw with Rashford at Old Trafford, the way we caused them problems was that run from the left channel inside. I think Garnacho is more than capable of doing that. For me,
do you think he's ready to make an impact starting a big game like that, or keep the powder dry, keep him?
I mean, look, I understand
coming on as a substitute.
He's an 18, obviously you don't want to throw him in the Lions Den per se, but for me, sometimes you've got talent. I mean, he's got undeniable talent. As we said earlier, he commits defenders left or right. I mean, in these kind of games, you need these kind of players that make the difference. You need that moment of magic. And regardless of whether Anthony is capable of doing that, in this moment in time, I don't personally believe he will deliver that. Of course, he has got that goal from the edge of the box, as we've seen against Arsenal as well, actually. Obviously, Man City, etc. He scored those goals. But for me, Garnacho, if he's 1v1 against the defenders, I know it's going to be Ben White on that side, who's had a fantastic season. But I fancy Garnacho against him.
He's unpredictable, isn't he?
You don't know which way he's going to go. It's so hard to defend against. I don't really see them doubling up on him too much. I think he doesn't really get doubled up that much. I feel like Rashford obviously will be playing down the middle, so they're going to be predominantly focused on Rashford. As you mentioned with Weghorst, that gravity effect, him dragging players, I feel like they're going to really focus on Rashford. He's the man in form. He's already hurt them twice this season as well. I think Garnacho might be an opportunity where he's 1v1, and in a 1v1 I fancy him against anyone.
Osman's just shot. He sold it to me. I'm going Garnacho, honestly.
The thing is,
you're a good salesman, you. Fair play.
You want to
going for that now.
He's replaced Ricky's salesman.
Yeah.
In a game like Arsenal, right, against Ben White, who's had a really amazing season so far, you want to pepper the fullback and bring Garnacho on as a secret weapon with that pace in the second half, because that's when a fullback is tired and fatigued and has been peppered by a different player all game, has been thinking, okay, I'm going to go left, I'm going to go right, I'm used to Marcus Rashford taking me this way. In comes Garnacho, you shift Rashford in the middle, then he has a new whole dynamic to think about, and that brings a whole new different set of attack. That's why he's been so effective when he comes off the bench. You see, in the Wolves game, if I'm not mistaken, when he started, Garnacho, he wasn't having the best of the game.
And that's why I kind of threw that question out then, because we've seen Garnacho start and kind of fade, but moments like the derby where he comes on and he can have that moment where, the game's a bit stretched. He seems to shine more in these moments where the legs aren't there, 70 minutes or whatever, bring him on for 20 minutes to make the impact, which is why I would have agreed with you until the salesman threw a spanner in the works.
Just to throw that back at you, I think that's a very fair point. Against tired legs, pace is always going to be a problem. But my thing is, firstly, the way we're going to play against Arsenal isn't the way we played against Man City because of the lack of Casemiro. I mean, with Casemiro in the team, we went 4-3-3. We basically said one midfielder take one of the opposition. Obviously, they had one player each, and we had the luxury of doing that because Casemiro is world class. We do not have that luxury. We're going to have to compensate somewhere. For me, it's going to be in the middle of the park. We're not going to create that many chances. We're not going to create that many opportunities. And the most opportunities we're going to get is going to be in the wide areas, running onto a loose ball, 1v1 against a fullback for me. I don't think we're going to be playing fantastic football. It's literally going to be an Ollie performance in terms of counter-attack with pace and hopefully get something on the break, similar to how a lower level team would come and play against Arsenal. For me, the Casemiro thing has changed the complete dynamics. Although I agree with what you're saying, I do think there is truth to that with Garnacho coming off the bench. I just think in a 1v1 situation, you have to try and take that risk. We could be at half-time, we could be out the game.
Exactly.
We could be out the game. You've got to remember Arsenal in particular at home have been absolutely sensational for the first 15 minutes.
But where's in all of this, the problem is all solved if Martial comes in. Where is he when you need him?
If Martial is fit, then obviously I won't start Garnacho, Martial and Rashford, yes.
I agree on that point. It depends if Martial's fit. He did such a good job at the City game, despite what some people say. I think it's so frustrating that he just can't stay fit. But as it is always said, for me personally, on that note, I would always start my strongest team. I think you should always start your strongest team. Garnacho, for me, is part of that personally, so I would have him start. So a lot of people in the chat as well want Garnacho to start, and like you said, we want to be on the front foot in this game. Izan Ahmed says, top show, guys, great opinions from you all. I mean, can you believe it's been an hour? We've gone over, actually. We've gone over an hour. It's a great debate. It's great to have new people on the forum. It's great to have different opinions, and at the end, we couldn't all agree on who would start for Arsenal, and this shows the kind of problem Erik ten Hag's got going into the Arsenal game. And I'm sure a lot of you at home as well didn't agree with what we were saying, or some of you will have. I saw so many people in the chat shouting for Martinez at CDM. I think that's a popular thing going around at the moment. We didn't think that. So it's going to be very interesting how this week plays out. We've got to rest, we've got to recover. The players do look tired. We've been on a great run. It has been halted today, but at the end of the day, it's how you come back from that. A win at the Emirates puts this draw behind us completely, and we keep going. We can't let heads drop now. We can't use the Casemiro as an excuse. We've just got to accept it and get past it, because, I mean, this team is capable of beating Arsenal, and that's what we hope to see. We hope to see a comeback sort of performance on Sunday. I mean, a point is still decent, but we want to be winning these games. But look, thank you to all the guests who have come onto the forum. Thank you for you guys for getting in as well. Faz, Kev and Usman have been brilliant, and your guys' comments have been great too. We appreciate all the super chats, and we appreciate all the chats in general. So make sure you guys give a like, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and keep your heads up. It is not the end of the world that we have dropped 2 points. It is, of course, you can sit home tonight and you can be disappointed about it. We are all United fans. We're all going to be disappointed about it. But let's get behind the team for this game on Sunday. It's a really important game, and let's hope Erik ten Hag can pull some more magic out and manage to get a win at the Emirates on Sunday. But we'll be back on the fan forum on Sunday. We'll have all the guests back as well, so make sure you tune in for that. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We will see you on the next one.